Hi guys, thanks for joining me. Today I'm at the camp and the video today is going to be how I sharpen my cutting tools, so stay tuned. So with me today, what I sharpen my knives and my cutting tools with is this sharpening stone. So this has two sides to it. It has a coarse side and a fine side. So the coarse grit is for when your blades hasn't been sharpened in a while and hasn't been looked after and has gone quite blunt. So you use this side to kind of get the edge back on your blade. I mainly use the fine side. I sharpen my knives quite often, so I mainly have to stick to the fine grit, and that just sharpens it up a little bit. So the best sharpening stone on the market is probably the Japanese water stone. A lot of people use that and it's a really popular stone, and you can obviously get them in all different grits, but I haven't got one of them yet, so that is something, it's a future purchase for me to get a Japanese water stone, as they're really good. This is my go-to knife, the knife I use pretty much all the time, and I carry with me when I'm up the woods. So this is the TBS Boar. It's a really good blade. It's Scandi grind, and yeah, it's got quite a thick blade on there. So I really like this knife because it does a lot of jobs. So it can baton wood, it can make feather sticks, it's quite good at carving and whittling. It just does a lot of jobs, and I really like it. So before I did have the Mora companion, and I felt that wasn't doing justice for me. It's quite a thin blade on it, so it wasn't very good for batoning wood. I could never baton little bits of kindling, but it was good for smaller tasks. Obviously, if you're doing a lot of bushcraft things and you're out in the woods all the time, you'll want to carry different knives to do different jobs. So you'll have a bigger knife for bigger tasks and a smaller one for carving and just smaller jobs. But yeah, I really like this one, and this is the knife I'm going to be demonstrating the sharpening today. So definitely recommend this. It's a great little knife to have. So I also forgot to mention, I like this knife because it's got a 90-degree spine on it, so that's good for taking material off of things and striking a ferro rod. So what I'm going to do is apply some water. So I've just applied the water onto my stone. I'll place my knife flat onto the stone, and then I'll just tilt it downwards so the bevel of the knife sits flat. And I'm just going to bring the knife towards me. Just like that, making sure I've got a good angle. So I'm going to do 8 strokes on here, on this side of the blade. So I'm going to do the same but the other way. So I'm going to lay the knife flat and then tilt it so the bevel is sitting flat onto the stone. And I'm going to do the same process on the other side, so 8 strokes. So you must sharpen your knife often to re-establish a worn edge. So what I'm going to do is keep rotating and doing 8 strokes each side, and I'm going to alternate between that. So I'm doing this because I really want a even blade, so each side will have the same amount of strokes, which will make it nice and even. So a blunt knife is worse than useless. It becomes dangerous as it's harder to control. So it's good to keep your knife sharp, as you use your knife for a lot of different things, whether it's processing wood, starting a fire, preparing food with it, skinning an animal. It does a lot of jobs, so that's why you should look after it. Like the saying goes, if you look after your kit looks after you. So that is what applies to this. So now I've rotated and done 8 on each side, 8 strokes. I'm going to focus on this area here. So for me, this area is what I use a lot. When I'm taking big pieces of material off of wood or carving, I tend to use that a lot, as it's the strongest part and you can get a lot of force on that part. So I'm just going to start at the top and just work down and just keep doing that 8 times, so it just works on that area. And if I put my finger on the blade and find there's any dull bits, I will work on that. So here is a bit dull, so I'll probably touch up on that in a minute. You don't always have to do a thorough sharpening session on your block. You can do this next process if it's not too bad, and that is stropping. So stropping the blade is just working over it and kind of touching up on the edge. So if you've used your knife after a sharpening session and you didn't use it a lot, then you can just strop after that day of using your knife. So what I'm going to strop with is my leather belt that I've got on me now. That's why leather belts are good. They serve 2 purposes. You can also strop your knife with the polypore fungus. So you get the inside of it, and you can strop your knife on that. So stropping is like the buffing of the blade. So if you don't do too much work and you don't let your knife go too long without doing a good session on your sharpening stone, stropping alone can bring back a good edge on your knife. So I've got my leather belt on. I'm just going to take it off and start the stropping process on the inside of the belt. blade shouldn't be coming towards you. So I'm going to do roughly 50 strokes, and what this does is just touches the blade up, and any bits of metal that are still on there we'll just put that into place and knock them off. So what I like to do at the end to know that my knife is in good sharp condition is I get a piece of paper and test on that it can slice through it. So you can also do this with the hair on your arm, but I'm going to do it with the paper. So what I'm going to do now is talk about sheaths. There are loads of different sheaths that you can buy and that you receive with the knife you buy. So with me, I've got a leather one. This is the sheath that actually comes with the knife, and it's meant to have where you can add a little pocket that can hold a small ferro rod and a little sharpening stone. Yeah, so I think it is the DC4, I think it's called that, I can't remember, that fits on. It's a little miniature stone which is great to carry as it's small, but you've always got it on you in case you want to sharpen your knife. And it's also got a little button at the top which secures it in nicely, and then at the back you can see that you can wear the knife either facing that way or that way, so that is a nice touch. So the most popular sheaths that you can buy are leather and kydex. There's benefits and negatives for both of them. The good thing about a leather sheath is it keeps its lubrication, so the knife can stay lubricated when it's in its sheath. The negative thing is if it gets wet, it takes a really long time to dry out. The positives for a kydex sheath is that it's obviously quite waterproof, it drains water off really well, and it's really strong material. The negative of it, as it's such a tight fit, if any debris gets into the sheath, it can scratch and mark your blade. So that is my process of sharpening my knife. That's my process in a short little video, and there's plenty of other videos on YouTube of different ways people sharpen their knives and using a Japanese water stone instead of my sharpening stone. So for me, I used to hate sharpening my knife. It was a real chore, and I'd always get my dad to do it for me, as I just didn't know how to do it and I found it really difficult, and I was worried that I would muck up the blade if I did it wrong. But once I learned it and watched some videos and got taught, then I found it a lot easier, and actually it's quite satisfying, and it's nice to know that you're carrying a knife that's really sharp and that will do the job, process some wood, process your food. So by having this sharp knife, it's making feather sticks a lot easier. I've tried doing feather sticks with a blunt knife in the past and it doesn't go too well. It's really difficult. You can get all different types of feathers, so you can get really thick pieces of material, really curly feathers, just by using different parts of the blade. So you can use the blade nearest the handle, and then you can use right near the tip, which gets a lot thinner pieces that are really curly. And then you can work downwards and kind of just different angles gets you different feathers. And the more you experiment with that, the more you kind of invent your perfect feather stick, which should have thin pieces to catch light, get the first spark, and then you should have thicker pieces of material to keep the flame going, just a bit of fuel. My favourite wood would probably be pine, as it's a soft wood and it's quite flammable, especially when you've got pieces of fat wood in there. The knee grip is also a really nice way of doing feather sticks. So you just slot it into a little gap in your knee, you'll find it, and then you just pull the stick towards you. So this gets more material off of the stick. So it would probably be one of the last feather sticks you put on your fire. So it's a bit damp on the ground, so I'm going to lay some of the wood onto the floor. So I just got my coffee, or the water on for my coffee. I'm just going to wait for that. So pretty much this video has shown you how great the Boar knife is. So you could see how well it did with batoning and then feather sticks and then the 19-degree spine when it came to starting the fire. So it's done really well, and I take it all the time. Every camp out, it just it's my go-to knife, so I really like it, and it fits well on my belt as well. So yeah, I really like that knife. And if you are recommending, that's not the word, if you are thinking about buying the knife, then I definitely recommend it. But it depends on what your uses are and what you're hoping to achieve from it. But it covers a lot of things. So there's a lot of reviews on the internet. I may do a review on the knife. So if you would like to see that, then leave it down in the comments. Also, it would be nice to see how you guys sharpen your knives and what ways you do it. Maybe you've got some tips or some different strategies that you use when you sharpen your knives that you want to share. Got my coffee now. What's a cappuccino? Really nice. Thought I'd treat myself. Anyway, in my previous video, a few people were left in the comments were asking about my keto diet that I was on. So I was on the keto diet for roughly 3 weeks, so not that long, but it was enough to go keto. I did the test, it said that I was ketogenic, but I decided that I got to that state and I wanted to go back to eating normally. Obviously it's a lot harder to shop, keto food's more expensive, and it was just harder to go camping and buy food that I could take camping with me. So yeah, it was just an experience. We didn't know how long we were going to stick to it, and it's just another experience. So yes, I am back to a normal diet. I've tried to cut out as much sugar. I don't have sugar in my drinks anymore, and I cut down on like sweet things. But I will go back to it like in the future. Not sure when, but I will, because it was good fun and it was nice seeing the effects it had. Obviously I wasn't on it long term, so I didn't see really long term effects of it, but yeah, it was a good experience. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting seeing how I sharpen my cutting tools. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you to all my subscribers. I cannot believe that I am above 18,000 now. That is crazy. So thank you so much. And thank you to all my Patreons. If it weren't for you, it would be hard making this happen. So thanks guys. Take care. So I'm just sitting in one of the deer hides, looking for some deer, so I'm going to stay up here with my camera and see if I can get any shots of anything without falling back down again. I don't want to fall. Yeah, I don't want to drop my camera either, so